Hello everyone, my name is Elisa Brito and I am making this video as part of an assignment that I have for my human growth and development class in my nursing course. For this video, I am going to be touching on two subjects. One was for my week 5 assignment and one for my week 7 assignment, and I am going to fuse them together and how they relate together. Now in week 5, in our class, we had discussed a very common phrase that I personally grew up listening to in Spanish. It basically says, twig is bent, so is the tree inclined. What it basically means is that if a child observes their parent, like let's say drinking or smoking or overeating, they most likely are going to mimic their behavior later on in life. Children, as they grow up, they turn to absorb, observe, and they're like sponges. So whatever they grow up seeing is what they're usually gonna end up doing as adults. That's why as parents, it's very important that we set a good example for our children so that they can have positive outcomes later on in life and that they can mimic positive aspects of their parents' life so they can have a more stable life. Basically, you want to show them good habits, responsibility, and basically emotional stability. Parents are not perfect, and usually children do tend to make their own choices as they grow up, but there will be still some things that they won't be able to break away from. Now, a lot of things tend to be hereditary, meaning like it's a generational pattern, but sometimes there's like one kid that might break away from that because something different happened in their life. Some things have a permanent effect and some have a temporary effect, and it all depends how their development is handled and what happens in their life. Now for my week 7 assignment, I had talked about a kid named John Quinn, and this kid got very like his story became very popular about 4 years ago in YouTube. And basically when he was 4 years old, he suffered burns all over his body, including his sister who actually rescued him. He suffered about 95% burns in his body. And that for a 4-year-old kid to handle is very difficult. This changed any possible childhood outcome he could have had. As a kid, with scars, being in and out of the hospitals, and having so many like surgical interventions to somehow get him to be as normal as possible is difficult to deal with. And not only because of that, but because, it makes him essentially different from the rest of the kids. He has had nearly 100 surgeries thus far. And one of the favorite things about Johnny that I really loved and caught my attention was that he calls himself a burn thriver, not a burn survivor or a burn victim. And that says a lot about how his mentality is, despite him being a young adult now. He said that as he was growing up, he was severely bullied in school, and it made him very self-conscious. It did provoke depression and anxiety. He also developed anorexia because he just couldn't understand why this happened to him. And he didn't know how to cope with the challenges that his conditions, brought upon his life. But now that he's like a young adult, he is embracing his scars, and he also is part of a big charity campaign. And he says that one of the reasons why he has such a positive outlook on his life is because his parents and his family gave him a lot of support. They try to help him see, I know you're different, you suffered something tragic, but that doesn't take away from who you are as a person, and you can achieve so many things. Not like you can achieve many things in your life and not let your condition stand in the way of that. You're still human, you're smart, and that to me was like, a lot of us who have normal lives don't have that, that kind of support, that kind of reassurance that everything is gonna be okay and that you're capable of doing whatever you set your mind to. So he also said another quote that also really got me, thinking, is that instead of looking in the mirror every day and seeing something that I hated, I started seeing what I could enhance and what I could accept. Now that he's attending college and medical school, he wants to help others with similar conditions and also help them cope with the changes that this impact has brought into their life. And now that he accepted and embraced himself for who he is, he's more confident and outgoing. He socializes and try to have the most normal kind of life possible. And so, how do I tie that up with what I discussed in week 5 with this? And it's that kids need reassurance, need positivity in their life, and if they can get that from their loved ones and set a good example for them, kids can thrive. Kids can be more than they can imagine. And just embrace their flaws and remember, like my parents taught me this and I'm gonna apply it to my life. And so